Hey everyone, it's Jared, and I would like to go over a game that I had a couple nights ago in an over the board chess tournament for the Woden Cup. I was white and my opponent was Bill East, and he had the black pieces, and this was round 7, and this is what happened. So I kicked off with e4, and he replied c5, the Sicilian defense. And we have an open Sicilian here. I played d4, he took, I took. He played knight f6, I played knight f3, and he played a6, which is the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense. Now here at move 6, the engine is saying bishop c4 is a good move, and it's now changed his mind at depth 13, saying bishop d3 is a good move. Bishop d3 is not what was played in the game, but bishop d3 for white. A popular response is e5, then knight f5. Bishop takes f5, e takes f5, and knight f6. Knight c6 rather. So this didn't happen in the game. This would give white about half a pawn advantage. White has a bit more space, it seems. White's about to castle next move, and black is one move away from castling. So this didn't happen. This could have been interesting. It's saying here in this position bishop to g5 is good, and then bishop to e7 just to unpin. Queen f3. I suppose looking for some sort of tactics on black's king side, I guess. And castles long for white, and once again in this position it's about half a pawn up. It's about 0.41 of a pawn up for white. So this could have been interesting. This did not happen in the game. Rather we had rather than bishop to d3, I played bishop to e3. And my opponent played knight g4. And already the engine is saying it's quite good for white. It's about 0.62 of a pawn up for white. Best move here is bishop g5. Just moving the bishop again. I'm not so sure about bishop g5. What does bishop g5 do? I don't know. What about this move? Is this bad? Apparently it is bad, and a good response is bishop c1. Bishop all the way back to c1. I suppose in this position black has some weaknesses on the light squares here. So apparently it's about 1 pawn advantage to white in this position. So bishop g5 didn't happen. I played queen d2, which is good. It's saying knight c6 just to get a piece out for black, and then castles queenside. And knight takes d4 apparently is good. Queen takes d4. So this could have been interesting. e5 just to kick the queen back. Queen b4 back again. Oh, that's b2 rather. That's queen d2, so queen b4. Not minding if the knight takes and having the pawns doubled. Apparently that's not the best move anyway. Let's see what happens if this happens. It's about half a pawn up for white, and b5 by black. Bishop e7. That's bishop e2 rather. Let's go back. What move for white here is good? Knight d5 it's saying. Knight to d5. Okay, just jumping into that hole on d5 for the knight. That looks reasonable. Bishop g4. Just attacks white's rook. Rook d2, bishop e6. Just bishop back to e6. Attacking white's outposted knight. Okay, this looks interesting. Bishop e2, bishop takes d5, pawn takes d5. Let's see, bishop e7, and then the game will continue. So in this position, what's the chess engine saying? It's about a third of a pawn up for white, so not much difference. It's about even here, really. So we'll go back once again. This didn't happen in the game. This could have been interesting. Okay, so knight c6 did not happen, but rather he captured here. Is this what happened? Let me just check. Knight takes e3, queen takes e3. Then he played g6, saying here e5 is best in this position. Kicking my knight back. Knight f3. Knight c6. Castles. White is castled. White looks to be quite good in this position. Okay, we'll go back once again. So knight captures, queen captures, and he played g6. And apparently this is quite good for white. It's about a pawn up, saying e5. And in fact here, maybe it was a couple moves later, but I took a look at e5. I thought e5 was interesting. I questioned myself though. I didn't play e5, but e5 looked alright here. So what happens if I play it? e5. Bishop g7 attacks the pawn, saying e takes d6, queen takes d6. Castles, looking for attacks on the queen. So what is the immediate danger with this? Let's see if I can find it before I let the engine tell me. So obviously the knight's going to move somewhere. I suppose the threat is knight f5 with a double attack on the queen, although I'm not sure. Let's just make a random move and see what white would do here. Bishop b5 check. Okay, let's not make that move. Let's make something a bit more normal. What about this? Knight to f5. Okay, knight to f5. So attacking the queen 2 times, the queen has to move somewhere. This looks pretty dangerous actually. Queen e5 seems to be the best move. And simply knight takes g7. So white will be not up a piece. Doesn't seem to be up a piece. I suppose the best move is queen takes h4 just to get an attack going. Okay. It's interesting. I think it's an advantage to white still. Yeah, about 1.25 up for white. Okay, let's go back. That didn't happen. I didn't play e5. e5 is definitely the best move in this position. Okay, so move 8, queen takes e3, g6, move 9 rather, I played castle's queenside. Castle's queenside, he played bishop g7, which is the best move. Bishop g7, I played bishop e2. What is it saying here? Bishop c4, it's saying it's better. Bishop c4, I guess, is more powerful. It's not as passive as bishop e2. So bishop c4 does look to be a lot better than bishop e2. So knight f6, knight c6 rather, knight takes c6, b takes c6, h4. So h4 is a good move here. I actually played h4 a little bit later on in the game, but my attack didn't really get going. But rook b8, looking for some counter-attacking possibilities on my king. So this would have been interesting. Rook d3 with a rook lift to protect the knight. Queen b6, putting more pressure on b2, and that's queen b6. Let's make sure that was the right move. Yes, it was. Okay, queen b6. What does white do for queen b6? I guess just takes the queens off. That's forced, I think. Queens come off, and h5, and this is just after the attack, because black hasn't castled yet, and if he does castle, he's going to be in big trouble, I think. So that would have been interesting. Let's go back once again to the initial position. Here I played bishop e2, which it's still an advantage to white. It's a bit less, it's about 0.4 of a pawn up advantage. It's saying now knight c6 is the best move. What did I play? Bishop e2, he played castles. Maybe knight c6 is best. Let's look at knight c6 first. Knight takes c6, b takes. It's a good move for white. Bishop c4 again. So even after moving it to e2, saying bishop c4. But here it's about even. So since white has lost a couple of tempos with playing bishop to e2, this position could have been reached a bit earlier, I think, and it would be white's move here, but now here it's black's move. So if we go back once again and take a little look at that, rather than playing bishop e2, playing bishop c4 right now, and then knight c6 takes, and now here it's white's move. So it's the same position, and it's a tiny bit better for white because it's white's move here, but in the previous position here with this going on, it's the same position, but now it's black's move, so it's a bit worse for white. Right here it's about even. Okay, let's go back again. So bishop e2 I played. So apparently bishop c4 is a lot better. But castles, h4, and it says actually h4 is the best move. I wasn't sure about h4. I talked with my opponent after the game, and I told him I'm not quite sure if h4 is right. And checking with the engine, at depth 13 it's saying to play h4. h4 is the best move. So I'm glad that I got to play the best move here. But I think the continuation I played was definitely wrong, as we'll see as this game keeps on going through. So knight c6, which he played, best move. Knight b3, which I played, which is the best move. At depth 13 is the best move. And this is about 0.21 of a pawn up for white in this position. In fact, now it's changing its mind to 0.37. And here, my opponent, it says, should play, well, at depth 13 it said h5, but now it's changed its mind to a5. So let's first look at h5, then look at a5. So h5, what happens here? g4, yep, that looks fairly logical to play g4. Just trying to tear open this king position. Bishop takes g4. So sacrificing a pawn to try and tear open the king. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, making sure of that. Okay, h takes. And I suppose h5 is going to come up for white. Just trying to weaken black's king even further. h5 seems like a good move to me. What's the engine going to say? It is taking a while to come up with a good response, and h5 it is. h5 and rook to c8 for black. And it said h takes before. H takes f takes queen g3. Okay, so this is looking a bit dangerous. Queen g3, attacking this weak pawn and defending my weak pawn. Bishop takes c3 just to double my pawns. I don't know though. Does that seem wise? Apparently here it's about. Oh, it's bad for. It's bad for black. Bad for black. This position, knight e5. Let's go back. Bishop takes c3. It's about even here. Bishop takes c3. Queen takes c3 is much better. So now now white is threatening to play queen a8 check, followed by probably rook a7 check. So knight e5 just cuts off the queen's use of a8. Now saying queen d2 to come into a6 with a threat of queen a7 checkmate. So queen e8 now. Queen c6, moving queen c. Oh, king b1 now it's saying. Okay, this is interesting. Queen c6. Interesting. So black's king's a bit weak. Knight d4 to protect this and attack the queen. Queen takes e4. Okay, we could keep on looking at this. But that didn't happen. That looks interesting. Let's go back to the initial position, which was playing bishop knight to b3, and the computer's saying a5 is a good move. So a5, let's take a quick look at this. h5, just continuing on with the attack. a4, so the opposite pawns on both sides. H takes g6, just sacrificing this knight. H takes g6. And then H takes. What would have happened if he took the knight? G takes h7 check, king h8, and C takes b3. And black is uncomfortable. It's still not very certain. Queen a5. Black doesn't really seem to be in too much concern, though. Okay, let's go back again. So, h4 was played, knight c6 was played. Knight b3, yes, knight b3. And saying a5, but a5 wasn't played, b5 was played. And this is still quite good for white, just saying h5, just keep pushing the h pawn. And I didn't push the h pawn because I was concerned about these two pawns, but maybe I shouldn't have been concerned. h5 is saying is the best move. Let's look at h5 again. So what happens after h5 in this position? Bishop e6. And then what happens? f4. That's g4. Let's go back. f4. h6. Trying to prevent this h pawn from coming down any further. H takes g, f takes g. Bishop takes b3. Actually g4. That's f5. g4. Bishop takes b3. Queen c3. Bishop takes c3. Let's check this again. Make sure I'm reading this correct. Oh, bishop takes b3 rather. Okay. And c takes b3. So black's king's a bit opened up. It's a bit weaker. This didn't happen. So let's go back once again. So what did happen in the game? After b5, I played bishop to d3, and the evaluation shifts to 0.5 better for black. And immediately after I played this move, I thought, oh no, black can play bishop takes c3. And that's what it's saying is the move to play here, bishop takes c3. But then I thought again, surely he won't play this because surely he doesn't want to give up his dark bishop, even at the cost of doubling my pawns. Let's take a quick look at this. My pawns are doubled, my king's a bit weaker. Saying h5 to prevent this h pawn from coming down. Queen g5 and e5. So queen g5, e5, attacking the queen, trying to get rid of this counterplay. And looks like white is significantly worse. But here it's not saying that, it's saying that I'm about a third of a pawn down. Bishop e2 is the move to play apparently. And bishop e6. So what's next? Queen to h6. Queen's coming in. It doesn't look particularly dangerous for the black king though. Rook c8, g4, knight a5, and white seems to have equalized this game. Knight a5. With a bit of pressure on white, but now, g takes h5, and this is a big advantage to white, very big, about 2.5 pawns, and knight takes b3, check, a takes. Is black getting torn apart? Queen f6, h takes g6. Rook f d8. Rook on f to d8. Rook h to g1. Queen f4 check. This forces the queens off. Queen takes f4, e takes f4. King b2. King b2. F takes g6. F takes g6. Rook takes g6 check. King f7. Unclear, I think. Black's king is very exposed. How's material? White is up 2 pawns. Saying h5 now. This pawn's gonna roll. This looks pretty good for white, actually. That didn't happen. Let's go right back to where we were. And we were not here. I played bishop to bishop to d3, which is definitely a bad move. But he didn't take the knight on c3. He played bishop b7, and it's about even again after bishop b7. So g4. I wanted to get some sort of attack going. Apparently this is not good for white. About half a pawn advantage to black, with saying bishop takes c3. Once again, just take this knight. So g4, rook c8 he played instead. This is not so good for black, but it's not too bad. Rook c8, f4 I played. I just want to get these pawns rolling. But this is even worse for white. Apparently knight b4 now. Knight b4, and I've got some trouble. A3, knight takes d3, rook takes d3, bishop takes c3, rook b takes c3, rook c4. Looking a bit dangerous. It's a very weird position. My king is a bit exposed. Saying knight d2 just to kick that rook. So this didn't happen. What happened here? After playing f4, black played knight a5, and I saw this move knight a5, and I was thinking for a long time he'll play knight a5, and he did play knight a5. But it does show that a better move, knight d4, knight to b4, was better. In fact, here it's saying knight d4. Maybe I read it wrong. Knight d4, knight takes. Let's just quickly look at this. Queen a5, h5, rook takes c3. Ooh, rook takes c3. So we have an exchange sacrifice. It takes. Queen takes c3. This is looking dangerous for white. Knight b3. Actually, this is quite good for black. It's quite good for black. White, sorry. About 3.75 pawns up. Rook c8. And h takes g6, f takes queen h3. And black's in trouble. That didn't happen. Let's go back again. So here, black played knight a5. I played queen d2. h5 is best, but I played queen d2 to protect the knight, which wasn't a good move. So knight takes b3 check, and my pawns are getting doubled again. We won't take a look at that just for the sake of time. We'll just keep going through. Queen d2, actually he did play knight takes b3 check, so we will look at this. That's the move he played. A takes. Queen c7. Apparently rook takes c3 is the best move. Once again, let's look at rook takes c3. Weakening my king, I suppose. Yep, c and b takes. And queen a5. King b2. It's looking a bit dangerous. Okay. So that didn't happen. After a takes b3, queen c7 was played. Okay, I played knight d5. Apparently h5. There's no reason to even do anything about this. I thought Bishop takes, pawn takes, and I might be in trouble, but there's no need to move the knight. But I played knight d5. Apparently bishop takes d5 is best. Queen d8. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to move through this rather fast now. This is taking a bit longer than I'd like. So just queen d8. Rook h2 to defend my c2 pawn. Rook h2, e6, kicking my knight. Knight to e3. Queen to f6. Looking for mate on b2. Apparently c3 is the best move. I didn't like it in the game for some reason. I played c4, which is a lot worse. Queen takes f4, which is what he played. Rook f1 apparently is good. I played king b1, which is bad. Bishop takes e4, which he played. So now I'm 2 pawns down, and we took bishops off. Queen takes e4, queen to d3. We took queens off, and bishop takes c4. Rook takes b3. B takes c4 rather, and I took with the pawn. Bishop e5 was played to hold on to this pawn in the center. Rook c2. Played rook c2. And this is quite bad for white, about 3 pawns down. This is quite bad. He played f5, best move. f5, best move. I played g takes, best move. He played e takes, f5. Apparently g takes f5 is better. He played e takes. Knight d5 was played. I jumped into, yep, and that's the best move, knight d5. Jumping into that hole. And rook f e8. Apparently king g7 is quite good. But he played rook f to e8. Rook on f to e8. b3. Holding on to this pawn center a bit. b3, king f7 was played. No, that's king g7, king f7 was played. Rook a2, and that was probably the best move I played in the game. This made him think a little bit, because there is no rook a8 because of there's a fork here with the knight, and if rook c6 is knight b4, and this is what was played. He played rook b6, and I thought about taking the pawn, but I didn't like it, so I played knight d5, which is apparently the best move. So I played knight d5. Oh, let's just move this. And rook 6 to b8 was played. Is this the one? Rook b to b8. Yep. And rook takes a6. Rook a8. Knight c7. This is probably an error. Knight c7. But rook takes a6. Knight takes a6. Rook a8. Knight b4. And we looked at this with my opponent afterwards. He played rook a1 check, which we determined wasn't the best move, and you'll see why. According to the engine, it's perfectly fine. So rook a1 check, king c2. He played rook h1 to pick off this pawn, I played knight c6. And he played rook takes h4. Apparently rook h2 check is better. Now it's saying rook takes h4 is fine. So this is fine apparently. I played c5, which is the best move. What happens? It's not very good for white still. About 2 pawns down. Apparently rook h2 check, king d1, rook h1 check, king e2, rook c1. We won't take a look at that. We'll just keep on going through. So c5, rook h2 check was played. King d1. He played his king into e6. And now it's a tiny bit better for white. Actually now it's even. It's even. So now knight takes e5 is the best move. To king e6, which I played. I played knight takes e5. He played rook h1 check first, king e2, rook h2 check, king d1, and then he played d takes e5. Apparently rook h1 check again, and this game's a draw. We talked about it afterwards. He was saddened that he didn't take the draw, and I was not particularly happy with the way I had played this game, so I probably would have taken the draw. But rather than play rook h1 check, which would make the game a draw, he played d takes e5. I played c6. Apparently the move is king e7. Now let's look at king actually rook h1 check again. He played rook a2, which is terrible, which was a really bad move. It's now really good for white again, about 3.5 pawns up. I played c7. He played rook a8, which is a terrible move, absolutely awful, because of rook d8. And what could he have done here? Apparently rook c8 comes up. Rook c8's a defense. Rook takes c8, king d7. He didn't see this in the game. Rook e8, check. Oh, that's rook d8. Rook e8. I see. So the king can't take the rook because of c8 queen. So king must take the pawn, and then it's pretty good for white still. White is going to win this game. Like takes, check, king moves, king d6. It's saying, and it's taking this pawn, and g5. But then it's saying b4, so this looks pretty good for white. That didn't happen. Let's go back again. So after this move, rook to d8, he played king e7, and of course the best move is rook takes a7 here. But I was just nervous, and this was the first game that I won, so I played c8 queen, which is a lot worse, but it's good still. Takes. He played king, rook takes c8, he played king f6. I played b4, he played e4, I played b5, and then that's how the game ended. Here he resigned. So that was my game against Bill East, and it's a game that I should have lost because I was 2 pawns down, but he made a couple of bad blunders, and it meant that I could win the game. So I hope you learned something from this video, and I'll talk to you when I do the next one. Okay, thanks, see ya.